Hi! This time I wanted to give you some tips and advice on how to eliminate the what do you do question as a dungeon master or game master, how to eliminate that immersion breaking question. If this is the first time you have been hearing about this, please check out the playlist in the description below, specifically the videos Crouching Gygax, Hidden Arneson, and the video There is no Dungeon Master. I talk more about that in those videos. Okay, I am also going to talk about how you can eliminate asking questions as a player, and I am also going to be addressing out of character talk. Let's start with the what do you do question. As a dungeon master or game master, I always encourage my players to just interact, roleplay, come up with their own narrations, even if I haven't finished giving the description of a room. So if I am describing a room, a zone, a section of whatever adventure site they are exploring, they are free to act, to interrupt me. But they know that if they didn't pay attention or they didn't wait for me to give them all of the details, perhaps there is a potentially dangerous thing inside of that room or within that zone that could harm their player characters if they act too hastily. So they also want to wait for me to give them the full picture before taking action. So it's important as a dungeon master or game master to offer some clues as to when you are finishing or you have finished describing the situation, the scene, the corridor, the room, etc. So I am going to give you some tips. Perhaps this could be considered beginner tips on how to cue or clue the player characters that you have finished describing the scene or the room or whatever. I have my quick and classic rulebook here. This is not as a module or an adventure. It contains an adventure, but I don't want to spoil it. But let's pretend that this book only contains a complete scenario, an adventure. So I am going to be reading the description. Let's pretend. So let's say you step into the prayer chamber of the Crimson Cardinal. The room is 30 by 30 feet in size. The ceiling is 15 feet above the floor. Near the north wall, there is a small table, an altar probably. There is a candle on each extreme of the table, on the right side, on the left side. At the center of the table, there is a brown bowl. It's a small bowl filled with yellow liquid. At the center of the room, there is a red circular rug of 10 feet in diameter when it comes to size. And then you close the book. If you are reading the description, close the book. And this is going to give the players a major clue that you have finished describing the scene. And now they can act, they can roleplay. But maybe you have written your own module, maybe you are reading things from a sheet of paper. It's the same thing, you can describe the scene, and there is a red rug at the center of the room, and lower the sheet. Or if you want to be a bit more dramatic, or put a bit more emphasis that you have finished describing the room, you can lower the sheet a bit more rapidly or dramatically, like you just lower it. And now the players know that you have finished. So those are two beginner tips. If you are reading the adventure, close the book. If you are reading it from a sheet of paper, lower it. But now, what if you are describing things in a more improvised way? You could say something, just notice how I finish this description. You step into the clearing of the forest. There is a stone monolith at the center. It is 7 feet tall. It's a stone cone of 7 feet in diameter as well. It is very strange. And near the tip of the cone, there is a red eye painted on its surface. And then the narration stops. Try to slow down and put emphasis at the end of your description. So this applies to anything. You enter the cabin. The only thing that you see in this room is a small wooden table at the center. and then you stop. The players are going to catch the indication that you have finished. So whenever you are describing anything, you enter the cockpit. It is obviously an abandoned cockpit. It has been deserted for a long time. The pilots have abandoned this section of the spaceship. There is some garbage here and there, your typical candy wrappers, some soda cans, but most peculiarly, there is this smell of rotten eggs. So if you slow down, you can give some powerful clues, or like I said, cue the players that they can now interact with the room, with the section, with whatever you are describing. I think it's also important that you clarify this before starting the game. During session 0, tell them that whenever that could be an easy tip. You could tell them, I am going to be, when I close the book, then that's the end of my description. Or when I lower the sheet of paper, that's the end. If you are handling things like that in more free form, you can tell them, as I slow down, that marks the end of my description. And when I put special emphasis into some words, you reach this dark maw as described in the map. There is complete silence around it. Not a single bird is chirping. The zone seems peculiarly odd since the plants, the grass, the flowers around it are of strange colors that are undescribable on this planet. So slow down and put a bit of emphasis at the end. Now let's move on to the other tips. As a player, how can you eliminate that bad habit, that immersion breaking habit of constantly asking questions? Can my character do this? Does my character see this or that? Am I carrying, So those things could be handled through roleplay all the time. The best way in which you can break that bad habit is to actually feel yourself, imagine that you are in that situation. You should be able to feel the world as if it is actually real. So let's say that you're in a typical situation that your character got teleported into some area by some spell or psionic power or whatever. Or maybe you got knocked out in some way, they attacked you from behind or whatever, and your character awakens in a new area or room. Instead of saying, what does my character see? Am I carrying my gun and my axe? Or maybe you are in a completely darkened place. You fell down some sort of trap, a pit trap, the trap door, and you fell into this area of complete darkness. Am I able to feel, does my character, no. First case, you got teleported or you were knocked out and you just woke up in this room and you want to know if you have your axe and your gun with you. I reach out for my gun. I try to pull out my axe from my belt, and then the game master, if you are still armed with those weapons, he's going to tell you, you can't find your gun if you don't have it. Or maybe you do have your axe, and he's going to tell you, you pull your axe from your belt, it seems to be intact. Or maybe you try to reach for your axe and your gun, but you can't. You are manacled to the floor. You are chained to the floor. In the case of the room with total darkness, you could say something like, I start moving carefully forward, putting one foot in front of the other, and moving my hands around to see if I can touch some sort of furniture or wall. And then the game master is going to tell you what you feel, you stumbled, there is some sort of heavy object on the floor. Or, you're touching around, you found this edge, it seems to be like the corner of a room. So that way, everything is handled through roleplay, and the only thing that you need to do as a player is to feel as if you are in that situation. Try to get actually into your character's body. Feel as if you are in that fictional situation. And you know that if it were a real life situation, you're not going to be asking questions to the air or whatever. You're not going to be asking the air or nothingness about that situation. You're going to act. you're going to smell, you're going to touch, you're going to move around. So instead of asking questions, act. Describe what your character is doing. Like I said, I reach out for my gun. I start palming my body to see if I have all of my gear. I start to reach for my backpack, or in the, like I said, in the room where there is darkness, I start touching around and moving about carefully. It's as simple as that, and it applies to any situation in a role-playing game scenario or adventure. Now, let's talk about out-of-character talk. If something can be handled through roleplay, it should be handled like that, through roleplay. But anything concerning the mechanics of the game, you know, those points, I want to use bennies or fate points or dark, whatever, dark symmetry points. Although for the players, I think they have a different name. It's been a while since I have played the Mutant Chronicles, but there are so many points that you can spend to give yourself bonuses, or to give bonuses to the other members of the party, to change some sort of detail of the description. You know, the game master tells you, oh, you are surrounded by 5 enemies, and you go like, no, I have this special card or this point, and I can negate the appearance of the apparition or the addition of 2 enemies, so I only encounter 3 enemies. Okay, that's inevitable. You have to handle it through out-of-character talk, but everything else should be handled through roleplay. I think this is also important when you have those games, quite simulationists or simulationist RPGs, or role-playing games that have a lot of resources, spell points, ammunition. Sometimes ammunition can get quite abstract. You have like a usage dice or expenditure dice, it depends. So it's important to have out-of-character when it comes to those resources. Maybe the player wants to know if the wizard in the party has enough spell points. You need to ask the other player, how many spell points do you have? Oh, I have this many spell points. Or if you want to enhance the roleplay, you can tell the wizard something like, wizard, are you up to the task? You are not very tired, are you? And then you tell the player, how many spell points do you have? It applies the same way to ammunition, or if you want to ask about the hit points, you don't tell someone in real life, how many wounds do you have? No, you just ask like for the general well-being or the health of that character, but out of character you can ask for more specific things, because otherwise you're going to end up killed in those dangerous combat encounters. And if you care for the life of your player character, sometimes it is inevitable to ask for those nuances. Ammo, spell points, psionic points, or maybe you want to ask about those resources, like I said, those bennies, fate points, etc. But everything else should be handled through roleplay. So these are just a few tips. I hope they are helpful. I think the ones that need more practice are the what do you do, eliminating the what do you do question. And remember, as a dungeon master or game master, it is your responsibility to correct those bad habits. If you are running a game and the players are constantly asking questions and you start answering those questions, you're going to be rewarding that bad habit. It's better for you to shrug it off, or perhaps the players ask the question and you can be like, or I don't know, can you? Or you could also say the roleplay. You could tell the player, roleplay. That should be clarified in session 0, but if for whatever reason the player gets nervous or acts a bit clumsy or whatever, forgets about what was stated or clarified in the session 0, and starts asking questions, don't answer those questions. That way the player is going to feel like it's not productive. If you answer those questions, the player will feel rewarded for asking questions, and he or she is going to keep on doing it over and over again. So, like I said, maybe the situation like of the darkened room. Can my character see anything? And you roleplay. Or you could be like, or you could say, I don't know. Does your character see anything? and that player is going to feel annoyed and he's going to stop asking those questions. This is just based on my experience. You can try it out, take these tips and see which ones are helpful to you. And definitely, if you are a beginner dungeon master or game master and you still don't know how to slow down near the end of your description or make that emphasis at the end, if you are reading the module from your book or your notebook or your sheet, lower it, close the book, lower the sheet. Oh, and when it comes to out of character talk, I think it's also important for you to, in session 0, just establish some guidelines when it's permissible to have that out of character talk when it comes to the resources of the party. Perhaps it's one of those really crunchy systems where you have many powers and abilities and you want just to clarify some things from your character sheet that someone tells the other members of the party, okay, let's go into that other room, and you could be like, wait, Thronar, wait, we cannot go there, I have not recovered yet. And you can tell them, I only have 5 hit points remaining. So thank you for watching this video. If you have any other suggestions on how to handle these situations, please let us know in the comment section. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your likes and your comments. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support this channel. If you want to, for those of you that do not know, the information on how to support this channel will be in the description below. Once again, thank you and see you later.